Film critic Rex Reed recently wrote, "Mother Cabrini, one of the most powerful, influential, and inspirational women who ever lived, has always been one about whom much is guessed and almost nothing is known." I should say she's not been known until my special guest today, Eduardo Verástegui, made a film about her life. Eduardo, before I turn to you, let me just conclude what Rex Reed wrote about your great movie. "I was glued to this massive achievement with unwavering fascination, finding it thoroughly and emotionally captivating. Keep your Barbie, I'll take Mother Cabrini." Eduardo, thank you for joining us today. You are one of the most famous actors on the planet. You've taken America by storm with your previous movie, Sound of Freedom. You now have a new movie about this amazing nun who moved to New York City. Eduardo, how did you get involved in this movie?
Well, thank you so much for this interview. Started like 20 years ago. I'm from Mexico, northern Mexico. I'm from the state of Tamaulipas. That's where Alejandro Monteverde, the director of Cabrini, is from as well. So we met, way back. And then when we were living in Los Angeles, and in 2004, we both made a promise to God that we will never use our talents to do anything that will offend our faith, our family, or our Latino culture. And after making that promise, we ended up not working for a few years because every single offer that we received was about the things that we promised that we will never do. So we had to start a production company so we can have the power to control the message and making movies that matters, movies that hopefully when people see them, they will leave the theater not only entertained, but hopefully they will leave wanting to love more, judge less, complain less, forgive more, because art has a power, to change people's hearts and the way how they think, how they live. We started working with Rod Barr, one of the writers, and who wrote Little Boy and The Sound of Freedom. And he did an amazing job in Mother Cabrini to the point that when Alejandro Monteverde read the script, he was like literally in tears. This is such an amazing story. And all of us, we were ready to do Mother Cabrini. And that's how we got involved now. Thanks to the success of Sound of Freedom, we didn't have to wait for 8 years. So, because remember, Sound of Freedom we were rejected by Hollywood for 4 years. All the experts, they said to us that this movie is never going to work. Who's going to see a movie about, child trafficking? And for 4 years, they didn't believe in this film, but the people did, and they were wrong. So Sound of Freedom became a big movement around the world. So somehow that helped us for Mother Cabrini. When the movie was ready, we didn't have to knock doors. We worked with the same studio, Angel Studios. And this is a powerful story. I like what you just said before, because that's my hope, that when parents bring their daughters, I hope that when they leave the theater, they will leave inspired, wanting to become more like Mother Cabrini and not like Barbie.
Well, Eduardo, it's not just girls and women. And one thing I really love about this movie is it shows how somebody uses the basis of her faith to do good. And Eduardo, I just have to ask you, because I don't know how many people understand what you have done in your own life to reach out to the poor and to the people in need. I know that you have visited countless prisons throughout Mexico, trying to address prisoners who are human beings and deserving of respect as a human being. You've given so much of yourself to help the poor. How much of this movie is inspired by your own Christian faith and your desire to do good?
Well, everything that we do as a practicing Catholic, as I mentioned before, I grew up Catholic, but for many years, my faith was not the center of my life, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know my faith very well. How can you love what you don't know? And so I was a typical, Catholic in Mexico who was going to Mass once a year to thank God for the entire year, but that's it. I was seduced by the world and living according to what the word tells you, not according to what God tells you. And it was until I was living in Los Angeles. I was 28 at the time, and I met this wonderful lady, my English teacher. She started questioning a lot of things using the Socratic method, asking me things like, Eduardo, what is the purpose of your life? What do you want to gain in your life? How are you using your talents? How are you choosing your projects? Why do you want to be an actor? Why? And then because of these conversations that I had with her, somehow she opened my eyes and to see how contradicted my life was at the time. And that's when I decided to change my life, because I wanted to, for the first time, be a real practicing Catholic. I started going to mass every day. I started praying the rosary every day. I did my first spiritual retreat. I thought I was going to be a priest for a while, but then I realized that God was calling me to do something else, to be in the world, but not of the world, but to use my talents to make a difference. And you know what? You're right. This movie is not about just women or men. It's about humanity. Mm-hmm. This is a real hero, a woman that was willing to die to herself so God can be the center of her life, a woman that sacrificed everything, that confront everything, even members of the church who didn't believe in her project. Then when she moved to Manhattan, to New York, everybody was against her, but she never gave up. She fought until the end, and look what she built. An empire of hope, hospitals, schools, orphanages, and her legacy continue, alive. Hundreds of years later, we're here talking about Mother Cabrini, because saints, they never die. Their legacy continue forever, because it's not them, it's God through them.
Well, Eduardo, here at the Media Research Center, we really focus on free speech and First Amendment issues. The first part of the First Amendment is about freedom of religion, for us to be able to express our faith as we desire. The second part is then freedom of speech. And I find it interesting that in your previous movie, Sound of Freedom, so much of Hollywood and so much of legacy mainstream media tried to silence you, tried to prevent people from learning about your movie. And it seems to me it's because that movie was so much grounded in faith, as this movie is. But this time around, most critics are honoring what you're trying to do. There are some critics at the New York Times who have specifically attacked this current movie because it is grounded in a moral theme. The Daily Beast and Variety also have criticized your movie for having a Christian agenda. I frankly find it appalling that these critics would think that you can have a decent society that's not grounded in some sort of common understanding of what's good and virtuous. So I applaud you for your current movie. I applaud you for what you're doing. How do you address the fact that some in Hollywood continue to not want movies that are grounded in a theme of good and virtue?
Well, this is a great observation. Well, first of all, we don't make movies for them. We make movies for the people. And just like in Sound of Freedom, the experts in Hollywood and all these, people who write about movies, and they didn't believe in the movie, but the people did. And so they were wrong. The people show up and they try to silence us, but the people are bigger than that. And we prove in Sound of Freedom. So for them, the only agenda that matters is their agenda. Anything else that is not their agenda is going to be always, wrong. And because they have an agenda, we have an agenda. Our agenda is love. Love heals everything. Our agenda is, to see. Our agenda is Mother Cabrini agenda, helping the poor, building hospitals for those who cannot afford, and going to the hospital. Our agenda is to put in practice the corporate works of mercy, and using our talents to make this world a better place. That's our agenda. They have a different agenda based on selfishness and not judging, just reporting. The truth will set us free. And but they try to silence us, and they try to. It's not only the United States. This is a global problem. In Mexico, I'm from Mexico. They try to silence my movie, our movie, Sound of Freedom, as well. Cabrini is coming out on March 21st. They are going to try to silence this movie as well. The feminist movement that doesn't have God in the center of their lives, whatever they touch, is destroyed. They already started this movement in Mexico not to see Mother Cabrini because it's Christian propaganda. Don't see this movie. I heard that they're trying to burn the posters of Cabrini, and this is crazy. How these people are.
It's insanity. What is wrong with people trying to live a good life and trying to help others, to help feed the poor, to take care of orphans, to help people in need? This is what inspires you, yet others attack you for it. It's mind-boggling.
This is the thing, like, the only problem and the only challenge is that they're very powerful, not more powerful than God, but they're powerful. And, they when the movie Sound of Freedom came to Mexico, they, at the moment that I registered to run for president as an independent candidate, because I'm not a politician, but I love my country, and knowing and understanding that child trafficking is a global problem, especially U.S. and Mexico. U.S. #1 consumer of child sex in the world, Mexico #1 provider. So I wanted to do something, and that's why I registered as an independent candidate to run for president of Mexico, to once and for all to end with this crime. There's more than 21,000 children that disappear in Mexico every year, all destined to go to this sexual market and organs traffic. And at the moment that I announced that I was going to register and then raise 1 million signatures so I can be officially independent candidate, they silenced our film. They removed our film from theaters. All the billboards of the film, they were removed. They canceled me on Instagram and social media for those 120 days. My Instagram, if you want to follow me, are you sure you want to follow Eduardo Verástegui, who puts false information? I mean, the attacks were like all over from every angle, and because they're involved in the crime. Those people who are in that, their agenda is to legalize pedophilia. Their agenda is to remove God from the center of the families. The agenda is to redefine marriage and everything. Their agenda is evil, and but we don't give up. We're going to fight until the end, because there's more people who disagree with them, even though the perception is like they're winning all these battles, but they're not. They're just they make a lot of noise. And as you know, when a tree falls, makes more noise than a forest that is growing. It's just a noise. That's all they do. Noise. But based on lies and based on just watch what happened in the Oscars the other day. It's just all evil rituals.
Yeah. So the movie's Cabrini. The audience ratings are spectacular. The reviews are glowing, except for a couple silly reviews from the New York Times and others. How can people go see your movie?
Well, it's in theaters right now. Came out this Friday. You can go and see in every theater here in America. March 21st will be in Mexico, Latin America, and then the rest of the world. And when these critics, they say negative things, for me, it's a good sign. That means that we're on the right path. I'm going to be worried the day that the New York Times and all these other, evil agenda writers, when they start policing our work, I'm going to be worried, because then that means that I'm part of them. So we're good when they are criticizing us. So that means that we're in the right path. I'm glad that they're doing that,
Well, the movie's brilliant. You're a great person who's helping to save humanity. I cannot thank you enough for spending time with us today. Thank you, Eduardo.
God bless you. Thank you. Everybody, go and watch Cabrini. Theaters everywhere. God bless.